to walk us through a demo of Materio. I'm going to go over high level what the system can do and some of the benefits it has, getting all of those details and decisions out of your head and into a system where your team can see it, your clients can keep up with things and make decisions, you can invoice and run timelines and tasks. And so we're really excited that we have a system that can literally do all of that. And I'm excited to dive in. So we'll start with how you build out a project in Materio. At the moment, you'll notice that this floor plan here and these other visuals are the foundation of your project. Those are down here on the right. You can upload existing conditions. You could upload mood boards or concept boards here. And we do have it on our roadmap in the near future to actually create those mood boards in here, but you'll be uploading those as PDFs right now. And this just allows you to start to build your scope of work on top of this floor plan as you start to think about what is going to go in this project. Before I get started on estimation, I'm going to be sure to use my time tracker here. It's already got the project. I'm going to say that I am estimating on this one, and I'm going to start the timer. So that way, as we're going through this, we can keep track of what we're doing in the system. All right, so I'm going to start the outline. You'll notice when you do that, you get the scope starter. This just helps you think about what is going to be in this house or in this space and making sure that you are checking all of the boxes. So for this, I might say, okay, there are 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 0 half baths. We're doing kitchen, pantry, living room, dining room, foyer. You might want to add in a custom location or name something specific that's not in the starter. You can do that here, and you can also customize this later. And then you're going to start to think about the types of services or categories of work that you're offering. So this might be design services. Maybe you're doing some kind of project management. As designers, we're mostly going to think about, the FF&E here. So electrical, what types of lights are we going to have? Tile, because I have a certain amount of bathrooms, Materio is going to prompt me to do some default selections here. And again, you don't have to select these. You could, uncheck some of them. And then you might be doing hardwoods. Maybe we're doing paint and stain. Maybe we're doing some wallpaper. We've got cabinetry. It's going to break all those down for me. Countertops and appliances. So what this is going to enable you to do is not have to add custom items later for some of the baseline things. Of course, all projects are a little bit custom and bespoke, some of those more so than others. And so this is just a starting point. Now I'm going to actually click next, and I'm going to set up my project financially. So am I charging a fee on top? So am I charging a 20% design fee on top, and that's transparent to my clients? Or am I baking my markup into product? I'm going to go for baking my markup in, and we can talk a little bit more about fees later. Oftentimes I'm going to be buying wholesale, and I'm going to be charging my clients sales tax. So I'm just going to set that up now so it can apply to all of my items. And there you go. I have created my outline. Again, this is just going to be a starting point for what is to come. So I'm going to start with my design services. I might want to put in my designer hours, and I want to estimate that. Maybe I'm expecting I'm going to spend 200 hours on this project, and let's actually change that to hours. And then I'm going to estimate my billable rate of $150 an hour. So I'm going to get that 48,000. This is a great tool to sort of just think about what it's going to take to build this project. You don't have to estimate this here if your clients don't necessarily care, but it's always good to consider putting in something there, especially in case things change, you can go in and add more. And then I'm going to start to think about all of these items. So electrical, I'm going to pretty much have electrical in every location. Let's just do a few as an example here. So I'm going to drag in the wall lights. Maybe I'm putting in sconces. These go in different locations. The kitchen is going to have a pendant. Maybe I also want to add in the living room here. Maybe we'll do the study. So I will drag that into the study. I can also come in and just click and add. So maybe I wanted to add flush mount. Maybe I just want to call it light. Either way, I can type in whatever it is that I want. And then I would just enable this as a selection. So you'll notice that little question mark pops up. This means it's going to show up over in my selections workspace, and I can start to add product to this. But in the meantime, I want to first just get things set up and settled. And what this is going to do is help you plan for the project later on. This is going to become a living, breathing document where you can update status and share with contractors. So it's good to set up a proposal like this in the beginning and really think about what it's going to take. So I might go into bath 2 right here, and I'm going to mark this wall light. Maybe I'm going to do, 2 sconces right here, and I'm going to save that. When I put those markers on the plan, you'll notice that it's estimating the quantity for me. So I'm going to save that at 2, and then when I put in my estimated cost of goods plus my markup and tax, maybe I also want to include shipping and maybe even the labor to install those lights. I then have a really great estimate of what it's going to cost me and my client to purchase and get these things fully installed. All right, so then I can do this in a lot of different ways. I can use the marker tool again, like maybe we have a pendant and it's over, we have 3 and maybe they're over the island here. We can do it that way. And that's just going to give us great placeholders for what it's going to take to get this done. Just a note here, when you're breaking down the estimate, it is, we have different cost components. Labor is a lump sum, so it's, I would just type in the number, whereas item is by the quantity or by the unit. So just keep that distinction as you're spelling out the budgets. Now, the other thing that's really exciting about the markers in Materio is that it becomes this way for you to actually do takeoffs. So let's say I wanted to do the floor tile in bathroom 3, I can come in and just highlight this floor plan and you'll see that the square footage is there and I can save it. So that gives me a really great quick way to know exactly how much is needed based on my floor plans. So oftentimes you're going to be drafting these floor plans yourself. You may be working with existing conditions or even getting them in from an architect. But that is one of the core components of Materio, is being able to build that scope of work, do those takeoffs and floor plans and proposals in the system. So I might put $10 a square foot for that. Maybe it's going to be $100 to ship. Delivery is like let's let's say you have white glove delivery, it might cost $150. Maybe you don't want to include your markup or shipping or tax on that. You can take that off, and you notice when I start to erase a default, it's actually going to have this yellow banner pop up where I say edit the defaults. This is where I can come in and customize the default rates on the different types of cost components that I offer. So I probably won't charge sales tax on labor or delivery, but I might charge tax and a markup on shipping. And so I can update all existing items in my project in one fell swoop. Just be conscious that design hours, you would want to take that off because that is a service item. So you can, majority of your items are products, you're going to want to put the default according to that. All right, and then the other thing I want to show is also just let's talk about the way you can use the linear foot tool. So even in a shower tile, let's say we've got shower walls, I can mark the plans, use the linear tool here. I can drag, click, and then press enter. And then over here, I can put in the ceiling height and then the waist that I'm going to need. So there you go. I have the way to estimate the shower walls right then and there. It is so easy. All right, so now that I have some items estimated, the next step is going to be figuring out what products are there. In the design process at least. And so that is going to move into the selection workspace. This is the space that you have to know where things are going, what needs to be designed, what needs to be sourced. This is a great framework for bringing in junior designers or team members who you don't have to make a to-do list. This is a very obvious to-do list of all the things that still are open on this project. And Materio is going to take you through what's open, getting it over to your client, getting it confirmed, ordered, etc. So we're creating this natural rhythm, this natural flow for moving projects forward. So now the default here is location. I could sort this by category. Let's say today I want to work on sourcing all of the tile. You notice that the ones that I have estimated have the budgets right here. So then I can come and I can pull these from my library. Maybe I want to pull a few different options here, like this one or this one. And then maybe for the shower walls, I want to pull something like this or maybe like this. So you can see I can start to pull in products very, very easily and put them where they belong so that my client can then go in and make decisions about that. And my team can also understand what options we're presenting. You'll notice when I have a few options here, I get this yellow banner that says it is ready to send. And so this is alerting me that These options are ready to send to my client for approval. I already have a client on this project, so I will just click their name and send it over. One thing to note here is you can filter by location or category. So if you just wanted to send only bathroom 3 selections over, you could do it that way. Or if you just wanted to send, for instance, all the electrical over, you could also do it in that way. So I'm going to send these over. And when I send them, you'll notice this clears out of my open workspace and it moves over to awaiting approval. So this is how you know it is in your client's hands. They have received an email asking them to come into the system and make approvals. So I'm going to go in, we'll pretend that I'm a client here and just approve some of these for the sake of this demo. You can also do it from your end. So if you have a meeting where you sit down with physical samples and you want to go through that with them and use Materio as documentation, this is also an option. Of course, we always encourage clients to log in and authenticate these approvals, but it is possible for you to do it yourself. And then once they're approved by your client, they're going to be moved over to this confirmed workspace. So this is how you know things are moving forward, they are approved, and now the next step is really to send an invoice to collect payment on these items. So I'm going to head over to our finances section and we can talk a little bit more about finances later because it is very robust. But I'm going to send an invoice. So you'll notice here that we have a connection with Stripe. You can authenticate or sign up for Stripe and collect payments through Materio online. And then I'm going to come in and bill for items. So in Materio, you have the flexibility to bill for your project scope, hours that you're logging against the project, expenses, and then other miscellaneous things. This comes in handy when you're simply trying to pull in items to your project. So I can pull in all of the tile. You'll notice that some of these are approved and some of them are not. So in Materio, you can actually invoice for items rather than product, and we're going to keep track of those changes in cost for you, but everything sort of is connected to the item. So I'm going to add all the tile and I'm going to collect a 50% deposit on these tile items. I might call this tile deposit. And you'll notice that some of these have pictures and more information and some of them don't. Again, that's because these are approved products that I'm actually billing for and have been confirmed. And the other ones are more of a placeholder. And if we approve something else for the shower floor and it goes over the price or under, we will help you track that and bill for the difference, whether that's issuing a credit or collecting more money. And then when I scroll down here, you'll notice that I have the ability to pay via credit card or via ACH transfer. I can also turn on wire transfers. And this in Materio, the default is that the client covers the fee on this. This protects the firm from having to pay this, and it's really a convenience for the client to do this. So we usually push it onto the client, but you can also decide to absorb that cost if you would like to. Now, one thing to note here is that if you're using QuickBooks Online, you can integrate with QuickBooks Online. When I send this invoice, because I'm connected to QuickBooks, it's going to send this over and sync it to QuickBooks. So you'll notice right here, it is syncing. And on that note, I want to show you what it looks like in the QuickBooks process, and then we'll jump back over to purchase orders. So when your QuickBooks is connected, you have a few abilities here, or capabilities. You can sync your invoices, expenses, purchase orders, vendor invoices, which are bills, sync payments to vendors, as well as deposits and fees. You would just need to manage your purchasing methods here and add those in. And then you can manage your settings here the first time that you set up your QuickBooks account to map these categories to different chart of accounts in QuickBooks. And these are all going to populate from your existing QuickBooks account. So you can always get your accountant or your bookkeeper to help you set this up for the first time. And that's just going to make sure that you have everything connected. And then as you're doing the projects, moving them forward, everything is syncing over and you don't even have to worry about it. So that is the QuickBooks. All right, so let's hop back to our project and go here. All right, so now that we have that invoice sent, we're going to go back to our selections workspace and you'll see that it says it has been invoiced. For the sake of this demo, actually, I'll just show you how to enter a payment manually. I'm going to enter the payment and you can turn off whether or not you send payment confirmation. That's really handy if you are getting into Materio and catching up. So I'm going to save that. And then another thing I wanted to note here is that once it is synced to QuickBooks, you can actually click this link and then it will actually open it up in your QuickBooks account. So if you ever need to link to a QuickBooks invoice very quickly, you can do that by just linking over from Materio, and this will show you, the services or items that we have invoice for. All right, so now we're going to talk about purchase orders. So I have items, they are approved, now they are paid. I'm going to head over to the purchase order workspace. It looks like here that my items are missing a vendor. So let me revise those really quick to make sure I have a vendor here. All right. And I'm going to save this to my library. It's a great example of when you edit something, you can always apply that change to your library. In that case, I definitely would want to do that. While we're here, you'll also notice that this item has been paid for and it links right to the invoice. So any kind of purchase order or invoice is going to be in this view for you, and you get a great view of everything that was here. All right, so we're in purchase orders now, and we have an auto drafted purchase order. So as long as your products have a vendor on them, they're going to show up in the purchase order section as a draft. This could be one item, this could be 30 items. They're going to be grouped together by vendor. I'm going to click this, and there are two ways that I can actually track an expense or send a purchase order. The first is recording an order that I already placed, and this might be you going to a wholesale website and putting in your card information and placing the order. It may be retail, it doesn't matter, but you're tracking a payment that you've made. So I'm going to upload the receipt that I've just collected after paying for this, and then it's going to bring up this screen where I can see both the receipt that I have to verify as well as what I paid for the item. Now, this is not going to impact the client cost of goods. This is simply tracking the expense for you on your end, and then also obviously syncing these purchase orders over to QuickBooks. So you could come in and you could say, actually, I ended up paying, a little bit less. Maybe you got more of a discount. Maybe the shipping cost changed. You got a better idea of what the shipping was. And then you can see here, okay, this is my grand total. There are two next steps. One is to confirm it. The other is if you actually already made payments against this, which you have, if you've tracked it online, is to just add in that payment. The default amount is going to show up. You can also attach a receipt here, and you can put in any kind of like reference number or information. And if you paid a transaction fee, all of this is going to sync over to QuickBooks as well. So now I'm going to confirm it, and it's going to be moved over to the fully paid and confirmed. Once a purchase order has hit confirmed or fully paid, that is when it's going to sync over to QuickBooks, and you can create bill payments and such over on that side. All right, so I'm actually going to delete this one just to I have to delete the payment. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna delete this. All right. So I'm gonna move it back over, and we're gonna go through the flow of actually sending a purchase order to a vendor. So now I can send a new order to the vendor. You're gonna have this vendor contact in your system already. If you don't, for some reason, you could add the vendor contact right here. You're gonna select the items that you would like to place an order for. Sometimes, again, there might be 20 items here, and maybe you only wanna go ahead and order 10 of them. And then I'm going to hit next. And this is going to give you a preview of what the vendor's going to see. They're going to get this email. It's going to have special, instructions if you put those here, where it's shipping to, etc. It's going to populate right here. And they're also going to get a PDF that they can download and use with the purchase order as well. So then I can also decide if I want to include the pricing, if I want to have any special instructions. The memo and instructions are going to be included in that PDF. So you can just remember that. Whereas the email message is really just a way to sort of introduce the email in this format. So just to note here also, I can choose a receiver. You can add receiver contacts. You could send it to your company address or to the project address, which is determined in another part of the project. But those are all options for where you actually want to ship this to. And then I can press send. When I do this, it's going to be moved into the sent column. You'll be able to see that this has not been accessed yet. I can get this shareable link, and then I can actually show you what this looks like here. So this is what your vendor is going to see. They're going to be able to view it as a PDF. They're also going to be able to upload their invoice to you, type any kind of message or instructions, tell you what the grand total for this is going to be, when your payment is due, when the product is expected to ship, and then submit that back to you. So then I'm going to come over here, and you'll see that now it is moved to needs review. I can see when the payment is due and when it is expected to ship. I can open this up, review what they've submitted to me. Again, same workflows. I can customize how much did I pay for it, track payments against it. For instance, maybe I just paid a down payment on this or deposit. Maybe I paid a $20 transaction fee on that, and I can confirm it. And then it's going to be moved to confirmed. And then I'm actually going to track payments on it. All right, so that is the purchase order workflow in Materio. Now I might show you the timeline. So I'm gonna head over to the timeline. Let's reset this timeline and get a new one going here. In Materio, we have templates. So you can create these templates on your own, and then you can pull them into the project. I'm actually gonna do this design project and pull it in. You'll see that, actually that one's not very built out. Let me do another one. Let's use a template here. We'll do kitchen design. Um, so I can create phases here. I can do this really, really easily for the first time. Actually, all you have to do is just type in the name of the phase. So whether it's client onboarding, schematics, whatever it is, you just type the name there. It just adds it in. It's going to naturally be dependent on the previous phase. So you can also come in and remove those dependencies if you'd like. And then you can set the date ranges here. You can also set them by dragging and dropping these bars over on the right side. So this just gives you some flexibility into how you organize this. You can see that the schematics is not dependent at the moment on anything else, so I can drag it around freely. Whereas if I move this, the entire schedule shifts because all of these are dependent on each other. Now, the other really cool thing about the timeline on a project is that you can actually create planned tasks. So every time you start a project, if you know that, client onboarding, we're going to have the consultation, we're going to sign the or send the contracts, we're going to collect the retainer, whatever it is that's standard in your process, your standard operating procedures, you're going to put that in here so that every time you start a project, you have that template ready to go. You're not having to recreate the to-do list every time, and you're then able to just come in and assign it to whoever it needs to be assigned to. And that just means that it is going to show up on their personal task list when that phase comes into play. So this is a great way to keep organized and to think ahead on projects. You'll also notice that we have a few other sections down here called selections due. This will allow you to put a category of selections on the timeline with a specific due date. So I could say all the tile selections are due here. This is great for communicating to your client about when certain selections are due, as well as your team. And then as I actually get into procurement and tracking things, I'm going to move over to this confirm space. You'll see that this was ordered. This is where I can start to track whether things were shipped and when they're arriving. And so I might say, okay, this is shipped. I can enter in the tracking information for this, say who the carrier is, add any kind of notes, and schedule that arrival on my timeline. And when I update that, you'll notice that it now shows up over here as a delivery that's expected. I can move this around if I get word that maybe that delivery is delayed. And it's also going to show up down here as upcoming deliveries. So that is how the timeline is very connected to the scope of work and the other items in your project. You can also see that the statuses along with these selections are visible from the scope of work. So that gives you a great bird's eye view of what is going on the project. Another thing to note here is that as your client approves things, they will be able to approve and it will override the original budgeted cost. And you can always dive into what that looks like, where are we at on the selections by coming to this finance tab under selections and seeing where they've gone over or under and how much is remaining on the budget. All right, I think I have done a let's do activity. Okay, so the activity feed is a great place to keep up with what is happening on a project, especially when you're running 10, 15 projects. This can get a little crazy. This is an internal view only. Your client cannot see this until you send them a report generated by Materio of this feed. I'm going to move this over so I can come in and add a note. This is the great opportunity to add in pictures. Let's say you went to the job site, or you saw something you want to update. You could do meeting notes here. You can paste and, as many notes as you want. And you can say, I visited the site, etc. Whatever it is, this can be team notes. This can also be something that you would like to share with your client. So I can save that in here. And then I can also then send this as a report to my client or anyone else on my team. So if I prepare my report for the first time, I can select a date range and then I can generate this report. It's going to pull in information like recent activity, what's coming up on the timeline, as well as those photos. The photos can also be added from our mobile app. And so that's really handy for when you're in the field and you need to get things into the project quickly. As I'm tracking my time in Materio, my notes or activity notes will show up right here. I can customize those. This is a great tool for project managers who want to send an end of a week report, but they don't want to have to go fishing for information across the teams. That's all going to flow right into this report, and Materio is going to put it together for you. And all you have to do is sort of finesse it and send it over. So that is the activity feed. This is also a great place to just see what's been going on, what kind of options are being added, etc. As a member of an organization, and if you're following a project, you will get an end of day daily briefing that will fill you in on all of the projects that you're following. If you're the admin or firm owner, you'll get it for all of the projects. And this is just a great way to get a grasp of what's happening on all your projects when you can't be in, 10 places at once. All right, I think the last thing I'm going to talk about today is the finances. So I know that we touched on invoices. I just want to go over what this overview panel provides you. It really provides you a great look at what is a planned expense versus an actual expense. And actually, I'm going to hop over to another project that maybe is a little bit more filled out, and we'll look at that. All right. So this is a project that is a much bigger project. It's a 1.1 million project. And you'll see here that I had my projected sales tax to be collected, revenue generated, my cost, as well as what my gross profit is going to be. So when you're doing a big project and you're wanting to project this, estimating out this budget and really putting in your markup and paying attention to sales tax, all of that is going to help you project what is actually going to be my revenue on this project. And then so far, where are you at? So how much have you brought in? How much have you spent? And then how much have you collected from your clients? So there's going to be this itemized view here where you can break down what was actually paid, where are the items at, where have you lost money or made money? And sometimes this might look like it's in the negative because you haven't invoiced for the item yet. But this is a great way to kind of reflect on where are we at on the project. Um, and then I did want to note that in expenses, as you have timesheets that are tracked and purchase orders that are issued or any other type of expenses, those will all be tracked here. And those are actually the purchase orders and the expenses are synced to QuickBooks. Again, I can always open up this link to the purchase order in QuickBooks and move forward with bill payments. So that is kind of an overview of this section. There's a lot that we could get into when it comes to finances and how to set up projects correctly. But I think the biggest thing to take away from Materio is that it is a framework for your team. It is going to enable you to grow your business because it's going to give you a system. It's a process defined. You can easily kind of make it flexible, but we have really thought about what is a framework, what is the system, and how can you best design and build projects in a way that makes sense and is efficient. So that is Materio in a nutshell. There's so much more that we could cover. If you have any questions, thoughts, feedback, we would love to hear from you. You can always email us at hello@materio.co. We have tons of resources in our help center, on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website. So please check those out. And I'm excited to hopefully see you all in the system sometime soon.